How's it going, everyone? I am Dylan. This is my cousin Carlo. This is All You Can Board, and this is the second episode of our new series where we rate and roast your board game collections. The first one was a huge hit, and we had tons of fun with it. We're super happy to be back doing this again. We have 5 new collections we're rating here, and all 5 of these collections are actually collections of our patrons. So we've received so many responses. It's incredible how many responses we've received of people sending in their photos of their collection. It's going to take us a while to get through them all. So if you don't see your collection in there for the next couple months, just know that we have them all in a folder in our email account. We are prioritizing our patron contributors when they send their collections in. So if you do want to get sort of bumped to the start of the line and you're interested in supporting, you can feel free to become a patron. Otherwise, we will still get to your collection pictures. It's just going to take us a little bit longer because there are a lot to go through. We can only do so many. Maybe at some point we start doing 6 collections in a video, spending less time on them. But for now, we wanted to give everyone a certain amount of time with their collections. So 5 awesome collections we're going to look at here, and we are going to kick, or maybe I shouldn't say awesome. Maybe they're going to be trash. Who knows? Yeah, we're going to have to see.
Wait and see.
So the first one is a guy named Thomas. I was going to say Tom. Maybe he doesn't like to be called Tom. Thomas, and he goes by Candle on our Discord. He is one of our patrons, and he sent in this collection right here. This really beautiful, this might be up there for out of all the collections we've received so far, one of the nicest shelves and nice, like look with the lights and everything. It's definitely an inviting collection more so than anything. What does the H represent, Candle? Thomas, I'm just curious, is that just a random letter you picked out, or does it have some sort of sentimental value? Maybe you don't want to tell me. Maybe you're like, Dylan, mind your own business.
But I think to reveal it might reveal something personal that might...
Oh, okay, yeah. Or actually, I don't know what you're talking about, but
yeah.
But
well,
sure.
I guess I might have already... Well, whatever. Anyways, yeah. Personal identifier of some sort. Maybe not, but...
okay, so let's jump right into the game. So first things, obviously the most important thing on the entire shelf is Feast for Odin, and the expansion right there on the bottom, looking very, very beautiful, illuminated there. Yeah, well, yeah, for sure. I
would say the most important is the lack of Agricola, which is egregious, but I'll let it slide.
I will say it's on the bottom of the shelf. You probably should just... It's an easy switch, don't worry, Candle. We can... everyone makes mistakes. You can just take the entire Feast for Odin spot on this shelf, move it up to one of the spots here on the top, and replace the games down the bottom. I think that's fine. But I appreciate that you have an amazing Feast for Odin shelf that Viticulture has just somehow found a way to sneak onto.
But going back to our last video when we did this, I think it's clear that he does operate in top shelf billing because Too Many Bones is displayed on the top. So the fact that a Feast for Odin isn't up there just shows you that it's
funny
like
how many
not
people...
one of his favorite games. But...
I'm just gonna stop talking about this now, but it's funny how many people display, not funny, but it just like there's a lot of images we're getting that have Too Many Bones displayed on the shelf. It's very interesting. We need to play this game.
Yeah.
The other thing I want to call out is the fact that you have a fantastic game called Seven Wonders Duel hidden inside the cupboard that you can only see when the cupboard doors are open, and Marvel Champions for that matter.
Yeah,
these are
Patrick's in there too.
And Battle Line, which will probably hurt you a little bit too.
Yeah, Battle Line. Wow, what's it doing being closed off there?
And even like Jaipur is a great game. Dice Stones talked about a lot. Micro Macro is great, and these are all hidden in a cupboard for no one to see. What is the reason that these are hidden away? I guess there are so many great games on the shelf, but
the other thing I want to point out real quick is on the far left, on the top left corner there's a Santa Monica box that looks like a weird size and shape. And I know that when I reviewed it, I mentioned how the box was way too big for what comes in there. I'm kind of curious, is this like... Did he cut and redo the box so that it was a smaller box?
Yeah,
is this some expansion that I'm not aware of or something? Like,
and how can we get our hands on this so we can replace our box with a more efficiently sized box?
Exactly. Yeah. I love how he just has the Marvel Champions and Arkham Horror in these like giant black briefcases or whatever. Like it's not the most not the nicest looking storage, but I understand for that type of game.
Necessary considering how much space they take up. But also I hope that every time you take them off the shelf, you wear like a full Men in Black suit with the glass, and you put it down, you do a combination code, open it up. That's what I expect the experience to be like now that I've seen this. It doesn't even look like, I don't even know if it's a briefcase, but you're right, that's what I think of.
It looks like it.
Yeah, I'm sure do you have everything from Marvel Champions and Arkham Horror? I'm just kind of curious if you've gone all in on both of them, because I almost went all in on both, and I eventually had to reel it back on Arkham because I just couldn't afford to buy all that stuff. But
right. Another thing I want to point out is, Thomas, how have you restricted yourself to only base game of Dominion? Most people's collections we see, once you have one Dominion box, you've got like an entire Dominion shelf full of expansions. So there's some nice restraint being shown there.
I was like looking at that as you said it. It was just an interest, and also the fact that you have Aeon's End Legacy, but I don't see Aeon's End anywhere. Is that something? Was that your first introduction to Aeon's End, and like, or had you played the original somewhere else and you just wanted the Legacy version? I'm kind of curious there. I mean, I guess for me, if I had gone in on Legacy, it would have been because I played Aeon's End at your place. But another thing I was curious about. But otherwise, like, you've got some really solid games here, like Champions of Midgard, Res Arcana, Azul. Like, these are Castle of Burgundy. These are some of our, my favorite games, our favorite games, are ones we really enjoy playing. So
and both of our, like, Battle Line was in my top 10 for 2-player games. Seven Wonders Duel's high up for you. For Sale and Ink and Gold are fillers we've talked about on the channel that we love. So
Patchwork's hidden over there as well. Spirit Island, which is a game we want to go back to. Great Western Trail, which is one we haven't played. Clank, like, solid selection of games, and honestly, I don't have a lot to complain about organization-wise, aside from the fact that Welcome To and some game I can't quite read are sitting precariously on top of boxes.
No thanks.
Yes, it's the only ones that are like I guess the other ones are hidden in the shelf, but I think maybe it's time to hide Welcome To and No Thanks in the shelf, just so you can maintain the organization of the verticality you have going on here. But otherwise, I think it's great, and like I said, one of the well-presented shelves that we've been sent in terms of like the way it's lit and everything like that. So good job, and Team Feast.
I don't agree with Team Feast, but nice collection. Nice collection.
You almost were going to agree.
I was about to, but I realized the error of my ways. Thank you very much for sending that in.
So moving on, we are going to be looking at, if I can pull it up here, this is going to be Kyle from Winnipeg. This is a local collection.
Yeah, fellow Winnipegger.
So really excited to look at a local collection here. Kyle did mention that we want it to be called Kyle from Winnipeg. I mean, there are a lot of Kyles out there, so the identifier I can understand. And he also wanted to mention, which you're going to see once I pull these things up here, that he does collect older games. And from the top of your shelf, I'm glad you said you kind of called out why you collect these. Otherwise, I would have had a lot of questions based on looking at this shelf here. And first and foremost, Kyle, we're going to get into all the games, and I think you have some amazing picks on this shelf, and obviously a very extensive collection. But I have to tell you how much it hurts me a little bit to look at the precariousness of the top of this shelf. Like all these
hanging off both ends.
Both ends hanging off. I was stacked like, all in different sizes of games. And I understand, I think you mentioned in there that at this point it's just a matter of where games fit because you're out of shelf space. I think you probably realize that you need to get more shelves or find a way to store them more effectively. But the one that even gets me a little bit too is Mecha and Minions is on the top there, hanging off the shelf with games on top of it that on the side have games hanging off the top. So definitely precarious top of your shelf, but I do appreciate collecting older games because I noticed 13 Dead End Drive here. I noticed Don't Wake Daddy. I know Siege, all games I played growing up that I absolutely loved and have good memories of.
Oh, I was going to ask if these were familiar. I was going to say Don't Wake Daddy. Like as a new dad, I need this game. Show my son. Let me sleep.
That's the one where it's like a plastic like dad, and as you move around the board, the gimmick is when you land in a space that says like 5, you have to press his alarm clock 5 times, and one of them he's going to fling up and his hat's going to go flying off. And it's like, you woke daddy. It's just it's a gimmick game. It's like perfection in a way. But yeah, so there's a whole bunch out there, and there's
love all the classic games up top there.
My favorite of all the names that I think is very confusing to me is Ready Set Spaghetti, which is not how Ready Set Spaghetti.
How many board games do you think there are out there with the word spaghetti in the title? You think that's the only one?
We're gonna look it up, and I'm gonna put it in the text here after I search Board Game Geek. But I'm gonna guess that there's 4.
Okay, I'll guess.
On Board Game Geek.
I'll guess 6.
Okay, we're gonna put it.
There's maybe a high guess. What if there's
What if that's the only one? But we'll see how many there are. So yeah, I don't know. I'll let you jump in.
Dirty Cough? Or no, Dirty Dough? Is that? No, it's Dirty Dough. I thought it was Dirty Cough.
Dirty Cough. That would have been an amazing name.
Atmosphere. Nice play on words there. You got some more of these classic games.
Yeah. There's a lot of little games on the side here, kind of like again fitting how they need to. It tends to be the way that things go with little games. I have a bunch of all precarious over there too, because they just fit that way.
I just love the mix of these super old retro games that you can't find anywhere else anymore, and then brand new Kickstarters like Lawyer Up. Loop. The Loop is a very new game. He's got a very diverse range of games here. And I know one thing he mentioned is that he doesn't own a lot of very heavy games, not because he doesn't like them necessarily, but it's just it seems that Kyle's the one introducing his friends to games a lot and likes the games that are easier to get to the table and that are the more interactive ones with friends. Yeah. So, and you can see that with a lot of these games, even Tobago I've been trying recently on Board Game Arena. Seems like a fun, very interactive one. lots of good picks here. A lot of good ones ones that have been highly regarded that we haven't gotten to yet, though.
There's a lot of games here. I mean, Overboss is in there. Junk Art. He has an old version of Can't Stop,
Yeah,
which
I know.
is amazing.
Yeah. He's also got Agricola. Thief Rodin's nowhere in sight. Excellent choice, Kyle. I'm going to go ahead and just assume your team Agricola.
That's the real way we grade collections. Which winner are you? Which team are you on here? And even though you did explain why it does, like where you have to like just fit games where they go right now, I can't let you off the hook completely for the alternating vertical, horizontal, just cramming games in, because it pains me a little to see it, even though there are some great games there and you have, explained yourself ahead of time. I appreciate that.
But here's the thing, his explanation aside, there's still some room for critique. If you look at this shelf over here, why is Codenames in one stack and Codenames Duet is in the other stack? You could just swap Codenames Duet and Pictomania right there, and that would already improve kind of just from a practical standpoint as well as aesthetic. So still some work to do here, Kyle. But
still some work to do. Yeah, and there's a game on the top of Pandemic there that I can't read. I'm sure when I zoom it in when I'm editing.
Like an old DVD box or something.
Yeah, just a random old DVD box on the shelf. Yeah. But it's kind of seems like it's like sticking out big time over top of Pandemic. There's a couple things that I'm sure you're grappling with, trying to figure out how to fit these games. Organization aside, you do have some great titles here, and I need to know, is that a bunch of Lego in the plastic bin underneath Nightmare there? Or like, what's in this plastic bin that's earned it a spot on your shelf? And because of going out, of course, by top shelf billing, what makes the box of Lego better than Agricola? I'm just kind of curious. I think Carlo will be curious too. Is it that it's less complex to play with Lego than it is with to play Agricola? Is it more engaging? I would completely understand. I just want to hear it from you.
Kyle, if we ever meet up one day for board games in Winnipeg, you and I can play Agricola, but just bring your Lego set for Dylan.
Deal. Actually, I still do want to play Agricola, but maybe I'll play Lego too. That's fine. Thank you so much, Kyle, for sending in your collection. It's a huge collection. I hope you're able to get another shelf soon so you can, get some of the weight off the top of it with all these older games. Maybe you can have like an older game shelf that is just meant to be admired and of all these older games.
Yeah.
But
and you're gonna have to show us some of these old games one
Yes,
day.
Please. There's a few on that shelf that I thought, if you're in Winnipeg, I wouldn't mind playing Mechs versus Minions since it's impossible to find that game. So maybe we can figure that out sometime.
Yeah.
Next up, we're looking at Josh Lamar's collection. I've already, done the disservice to Josh as one of our patrons of misspelling his name in one of our videos. Unfortunately, my bad there. And this is going to be his collection. He sent us in a bunch of different photos of his collection, just different angles. So I'll put up a couple of them throughout this while we're talking. We're going to kick things off with this one right here, which is also seems to be his alcohol shelf, which is I like the aesthetic of like, are these the games that you specifically play when you're like, okay, when we're gonna play these games, the requirement is we're gonna sit down, we're gonna have some whiskey, and we're gonna play a game of Tainted Grail because it's the only way to get through Tainted Grail.
These are some pretty heavy games to be drinking in the middle of Pipeline and
Res Arcana, I guess, isn't.
Res Arcana is doable.
But I don't know. I could see myself drinking a glass of whiskey while playing Res Arcana.
Yeah,
like, Cloudspire for sure.
Cartographers too. There's some, but like Jaws of the Lion, Cloudspire. These are pretty intense games.
Listen, by the time we get through the rules of Cloudspire, we're already gonna be too drunk to play.
Exactly.
But it's still a great game.
Yeah.
There are some heavy games here. I'm imagining this is like definitely the heavier shelf with a couple, sprinkled in because cartographers and. I imagine you put cartographers and Lockup together because Role Player Adventures is on the same shelf. You kind of want them to be nearby.
Yeah,
those obviously are much later experiences than some of these. But yeah, like Pipeline, Smartphone Inc.,
Barrage is a very heavy game as well. Yeah.
These are either most games that I want to play and haven't played, but I know are heavier experiences. And you have a bunch of you have Clank Legacy there, which is a game I really want. You have Gloomhaven. You have Pandemic Legacy, Role Player Adventures, Tainted Grail. This is your heavy sit down and have an entire evening of it game shelf, right?
I'm expecting some more heavy games though. If we know anything about Josh from our Discord, he likes some pretty heavy complex games.
Yeah, and he would have explained. I'm glad he explained it away already in the email because I definitely would have commented on the fact that with all these heavy games, you got Machikoro on the bottom there. Right. But it is Machikoro Legacy,
that's what I was gonna say,
so it does, I guess, apply here, so which is fine. Then we've got this shelf right here, which is next to your couch, which I just want to start things off. This. Going by the rules of top shelf billing, which is trademark now and official to All You Can Board. You have a very, very random, interesting choice for top shelf billing, which is literally above all the rest, and is a game called Black Sonata, and I have no idea what this is. I looked it up.
I've heard of it, I don't know much about it.
It's apparently a Shakespearean game where you're trying to find the identity of one of Shakespeare's fans or one of Shakespeare's characters or something like that. But what gives it top shelf billing? Why is it the most important game in your entire collection? I'm very curious. Again, top shelf billing is a thing, and it always has to apply.
Also, Josh left a little tidbit in the email about, it's something we consider a pretty serious first world problem, which is that,
yes.
in his Paris apartment, he has limited space for games. And if you go back to the picture we were just looking at here, Josh, I mean, it looks like you've got at least, maybe half a foot. There's at least a few inches of unused space at the top of the shelf. You got to take advantage of that space, man. You can't be complaining about not having space in your Paris apartment when I can see, I can't even see the ceiling in this photo.
I'm going to read out the line just because I thought it was funny, but my biggest issue is space. I can't fit any more board game shelves in my tiny Paris apartment, which 100% valid. And Carlo was the one who told me that apparently the apartments in Paris are very small or can be, but I just think that it's such what a problem we have in the board game hobby where I can't fit any more board games on my shelf. It is a first world problem, but
and he goes on to say that because of that he has a lot more games under couches and in a closet. This is the first collection we've come to where someone has willingly admitted to stashing games under their couch. Yeah, and he's even listed the ones that are under the couch.
We talk about top shelf billing. Now we have under couch billing, which is the bottom barrel of your games apparently. But yet you have these are the games that are under Josh's couch. Terraforming Mars, Wingspan.
Wait, Terraforming Mars with all expansions.
Yes,
all of them under
Wingspan,
the couch.
Tapestry, Photosynthesis, King of Tokyo, Elder Sign, and Escape the Dark Castle. There are some heavy hitter games that you're putting underneath your couch. I need to know the reasons why these are under your couch and not getting shelf space. Is it because you don't like them? Is it because they get played so much you just want to be able to say, who's up for a game? And you reach under the couch and pull it out? I need to know the reason. And now we have a whole new term for the channel, under couch billing, which is great. There's a whole bunch of other games in here that we love. He is since gotten, sadly, Agricola, and I was on Team Agricola.
He said Team Agricola. He liked it quite a bit. He might have even said greatest game of all time.
No,
maybe not. I might be misquoting you slightly, but I think that was about what you said. He
specifically said he's Team Caverna, actually, and Team Agricola. I think if he had to choose, he'd go with Agricola over Feast of Odin. But there's some games in here like Caverna, like Hallertau, Boon Lake, Castle of Burgundy that are games I've either played and loved or games I really want to play. I really do want to play Caverna and Boon Lake specifically. I think that's
Troyes. I really want to try. QE sounds like an amazingly fun auction game I've been wanting to play.
Watergate is one that we don't see in as many collections, but is one of my bigger surprises in terms of a game where I do not resonate at all with the theme, but really enjoy the actual experience. Watergate's one I definitely would love to see hit the table more for us, but also even just that kind of style of game come up with a better theme. I shouldn't say better, a theme that resonates with us personally a little bit better. Underfallen Size, Sky's Furnace, That's So Clever, Cafe, The Crew. There's some heavy hitter games that are either in our collection here or we just really enjoy playing. What is Old Tree? Why is that?
It's a new one. I just saw it come into stock recently. I can't even remember who designed it. It's a pretty new one that kind of went under the radar a little bit.
Got it. Yellow and Yancey, which is probably one that you want in your collection.
I'd love to try that. Bus is one that I've been wanting to try for a long time. Probably half of the medium to medium heavy Euros that we want to try are in Josh's collection. Yeah,
he's also got a bunch of games that couldn't make it onto the shelf, unfortunately. They had to just get a spot on the floor, which I shouldn't criticize too much. I got a pile of games on the floor here because they don't fit on my shelf, so I empathize. But Dice Forge, Picture Perfect, a French version of Tiny Towns.
Les Petites Bourgades.
Yeah, I should mention. Carlo is our resident French expert, so if there's anything wrong with the French in any of our videos, he's the one you're going to want to go to. We'll have a new email that you can send it to him, or it'll be Carlo French at allyoucanboard@gmail.com. Not actually, it's not going to work.
Don't promote things that aren't legitimate.
Someone's going to try sending an email to that can be like, I got a bounce
You
back.
never got back to me. Yeah.
Whistle Mountain, which I've been talking a lot about Whistle Stop lately, as a game I want to go back to and play, and Whistle Mountain is sort of a follow-up version that I really want to try.
Interesting that Meeple Circus, if I'm not mistaken, on the cover, it literally shows meeples being stacked on top. And then he's gone and stacked boxes on top of Meeple Circus.
Intentional.
Itself.
It has to be intentional.
Which is cool.
It's a really...
Wait, go back. Is that on... Oh, he's got on Mars and Lisboa, hiding the Age of Steam. Wow, there's some real heavy hitters.
In this photo, they're hiding behind that. Same with all his French Ticket to Ride at the bottom, too. Yeah. So, a bunch of... even one of your favorite games, Mercado de Lisboa.
Wow.
every time someone has a game that you didn't like, I'm going to be like, hey, it's your favorite game.
Yeah, it's fine.
I liked Mercado de Lisboa more than Carlo. It's not one of my favorite games, but I think I did.
All those
like
0
more.
times you've requested to play it.
You know what?
Since the one time we played.
The next time I'm at your house, I'll take it onto my shelf and I'll put it to use a little bit more than it is on yours right now. But you got Cubitos in there instead of Quacks, which no hate there. I think both are great games. Yeah. But overall, great collection, Josh, and thank you for all the support that you've continued to show in our Discord and sending in your photos of your collection. And I think it almost is time for you to get. I know it's a tiny apartment, but if you can squeeze like one more little shelf in, or maybe get some like floating shelves on the wall just to get some of these games off the floor and stop hiding the ones at the bottom there. But otherwise,
or if nothing else, at least get a couch that has more room underneath, so you can shove more games under.
Yes, more couches, more games under couches. That forget everything I said. That's the way to go for sure. We should all be putting more games under our couches. Thank you so much, Josh. Next collection we're going to look at. This is I'm going to mispronounce your name. What's her name?
I believe it's pronounced Hilda.
Hilda. It's either Hilda or Hildy. I think you're probably right with Hilda. But we have actually seen Hilda in the comments of our YouTube videos for a while, and she was kind enough to send in her collection. And let me see if I can pull up her email here, just in case she said anything specific. She did, yes. So Hilda, as you're seeing on the screen right now, organizes her shelf in a really interesting way, and that is that every shelf has a theme to it. So there is one that's completely Uwe Rosenberg, but there's also one that's in nature. There's one that's animals and human-like animals and / Ryan Lockett, which I think is amazing. Those are together. Smaller boxes and Stefan Feld. How it began, which I imagine means like the games that started her collection.
I would guess so.
/ small boxes again. Deck building and fantasy, cities and streets, and then Puzzly and Golem, which is its own little.
I think Golem is just the game itself.
Right.
Unless that's the shelf for Golem-related games. But there's only one so far, but planning on getting more.
So I just thought that was a really interesting way of organizing a collection. We haven't seen that as much. So let's take a look at all her games here. So very first thing we need to call out is, of course, she's got both a Feast for Odin and Agricola at the very top of the shelf. And of course, not only is top shelf build a thing, it also goes left to right in terms of...
oh, really?
Yeah, that's a new thing I forgot to mention last time. So Feast for Odin is come before Agricola, but...
I think it's alphabetical for those games at least. Feast for Odin,
no, because if it was, the space makes it come after, I think.
That's not how that works. I mean, not the whole shelf is alphabetical anyways, but at the start. The other thing I'll mention is if someone were to just kind of nudge the shelf and only one game were to fall off, a Feast for Odin would be the one that would fall, and Agricola would either stay or Agricola would fall on top of, Feast for Odin cushioning the blow at the bottom. So.
Hilda, you just want to keep Agricola safe being the second spot on the shelf. That makes way more sense.
I love the Uwe shelf, but
me too.
Hild, one thing I do have to point out right away is the Cottage Garden trilogy. You have them in the wrong order. Cottage Garden's the first in the trilogy, and you have it in the middle. I could accept it being on the left to right, but in the middle is you just can't do that. So put Cottage Garden, then Indian Summer, then
Easy
Spring
fix.
Meadow, then New York Zoo,
Easy
and then
fix.
it'll all be
Arc Nova, I know, is a huge box, but it pains me how much it's sticking up off your shelf here. I know that there's really no solution, because then if you want to put it on the top of your shelf, it ruins the Uwe shelf, and it probably doesn't fit on any shelf without it sticking out. I had that same problem with some of my games, but I had to relegate them to the bottom where no one can see them sticking out. But either way, I'm jealous that you have Arc Nova, because I'm trying to get my hands on it. And I like that you have this nature shelf, because I feel like, what's interesting is, like, sometimes I have people that come over to play games and they'll gravitate towards just a theme. Like, I know someone who specifically loves Wingspan because of the theme and will gravitate towards games like Barron Park and New York Zoo and things because they contain animals. So it's interesting that you kind of organize your games that way, because that actually could work in a lot of people's favor, being like, oh, I like Wingspan and here's all of these other nature games, right? You have to then, I guess, make sure they're okay with the mechanics of them, but...
Right, but for some people that, like... a theme is something that they can't get past if they're not interested in it. So it is, it's an interesting way to sort the games.
Did you put your little owl friend on the same level as your animal and nature games to apply? Because if that's accidental, that's a very happy accident.
Yeah. Interesting. Lanjou?
Lanterns.
Is that...
Is that the French version? No, that's not French.
Well, no, that's what I'm wondering. Is it a different language version, or was the game... Like, did it have a different title before or something? I've never seen it called Lanjou before.
I love seeing games in other languages, because, like, you recognize the box art, you recognize elements, and you're like, but that's not the name I'm used to seeing on my shelf, right? Like, for some reason, I just find it fascinating. Also, you got to find something to fill the gap between the Everdells and the Ryan Locketts there. There's got to be some sort of game that bridges the gap between human-like animals and Ryan Lockett that you can slide in between right there. I think we can definitely find something for you. and let's scroll down here.
One quick thing I want to point
yeah.
out here is because we just talked about the Everdell shelf, is the Evertree is set up over here. Now, I can only hope that it's because, the component itself doesn't actually provide anything to play in the game. So I'm guessing you probably don't use the Evertree when you play, which is probably more practical,
Or she plays so much that she didn't want to set up all the cardboard pieces. She's like, I'm just going to leave this set up on the shelf.
Yeah, it could be either one.
But either way, I like having, it's one of those things that is kind of cool to have on display. And honestly, once I'm like in our new studio and our new setup and everything like that, having things like that, like the Evertree and different elements of board games set up on a shelf is a pretty neat thing to have. Yeah. So I will say that I have to start, there's been a lot that we've been saying is really, really great, and then there's tons of great stuff on the shelf. I think that when you get to the small games here, the organization takes a bit of a hit, and I understand, I know the pain of trying to organize small games, but everything was just like so well fit in, like almost super snug on the shelf, and then you got this big gap here, which beside Great Plains, which I'm wondering, is that because it's a game that you're currently playing that isn't on your shelf?
Or she's got a Stefan Feld game pre-ordered to slot right in there,
right?
Maybe.
But like, because you have these two games sitting horizontal on top, I guarantee you those could both fit in that gap right there.
But then how do you know where the divide? When Sir Friend comes over, how do you know just by looking at it which ones are the Stefan Felds? True. I think she wants that gap there intentionally.
Yeah, I could see that. What is the? I'll zoom in on it on the video, but what is this? Component from? Because I imagine the Evertrees or something, but what is that from? I'm really curious what game that is. Huh. Land versus Sea, having the dip in box size hurts me a little bit.
Yeah, I can imagine. It doesn't sit well with you.
Pains me a little bit, but understandable still.
You got, by the looks of it, 4 Dominion expansions. Very nice, very nice. We just looked at a collection, obviously, that only had 1 copy of Dominion, the base game with no expansions, so not showing the equal amount of restraint there, but that's fine.
I love this look of Dominion. It's different than the Dominions we have.
Yeah,
I just, the way it looks on the shelf, the different colors of the D on each of the things, I really like it.
This one looks like it's got, is that Pegasus Spiel logo by the looks of it? Yeah.
I think I prefer that branding. I don't know if that's an unpopular opinion. That'll be our next unpopular opinion video.
Right, yeah.
This branding of Dominion's better. Yeah. But yeah, I really enjoy it. And you got some of my favorite games on there too, like Ethnos, Res Arcana, Gloomhaven, Clank, El Dorado, like that. Those are some heavy hitter games that we like, or one of us or both of us love playing. So.
Yeah. How many would you say we can personally take credit for potentially introducing Hilda to? How many of these games have we talked about on the channel?
All of them. Like,
not every single one, but quite a few.
You can respond in the comments and let us know that you bought all these games because of us.
Even the ones we've never talked about or played.
Even the ones you had before we ever knew we existed. Somehow we influenced you, telekinetically. I'm sure it happened, but
so if you had to point out one type of game or one thing she's missing here, is there anything you could pinpoint?
How much? I know there is some Knizia like El Dorado, but there might still be a lack of Knizia. I think you could probably have more Knizia on this shelf.
So too.
If you
big Rosenberg fan.
Yes,
there's definitely a lack of Knizia.
The Rosenberg presence is amazing. I think Knizia could probably use some love in terms of getting some more of his games. I think if you liked El Dorado,
My City.
Yes, My City is another one. Okay. So yeah, if you're liking those, I think it might be time to lean more into the Knizia.
Yeah, check out some of his older titles too.
And then you can have a Knizia shelf too, and then you would have our favorite collection of anyone who sent in a video.
Yes. And especially because I was going to say the thing I noticed was the lack of auction games, and Knizia is kind of like the master of auction games. So maybe pick up a copy of like Modern Art or a High Society if you want a smaller filler auction game or something like that. But
thank you so much, Hilda, for sending in your collection. Thanks for all the support you've shown in the comments too. We recognize your name in the YouTube comments from way back too. Appreciate all the support, and thanks again for sending in the photo.
Yeah.
All right, so the last one we're going to look at here today, another collection. This is from Amélie. Is that how you pronounce it?
I think so. Amélie.
Amélie. If we got it wrong, so apologies, but you're dealing with the worst pronunciation person ever trying to pronounce these things. And this is the collection that was sent to us. So this is a very tight collection. There's a couple open spots that could maybe fit some new games, but generally you seem to be full here. Although you have a bunch of video games here that...
Yeah, there's a clock taking up a full shelf. There's plenty of game room.
That's a beautiful clock.
I didn't say it wasn't. I just said, you're talking about game
Well, you're
space.
like, there's a clock taking up space here.
Well, you're like, get these other things off the shelf.
We're just like, anything that's not board games, get it out of
Exactly.
here. No aesthetics. We don't care about aesthetics. Just put more games on the shelf. So the very first thing I want to mention, okay, and this is, I am so curious about this, and I don't think either of us is going to have the answer, but if you do, please tell me. I need to know, what are the tabs for? What do the tabs mean? a bunch of the games have these sticky tabs.
How did I not even notice those?
I need to know what that represents. I'm so curious. I mean, is this like a bunch of them have them?
You think it's Shelf of Shame or like unplayed games? It's like once you play it once, you take the tab off.
Oh
it's
man,
like
that would be genius. If that's the what thing you do, how satisfying it is to knock a game off the Shelf of Shame and take a tab off.
Yeah, because those ones do look like, for the most part, the boxes look like they're in really good condition. There's no I don't know.
If you watch this video,
I'm very curious.
Respond in the comments or send us an email or something. I'm just really curious what the tabs mean. What does a tab mean?
What does a bean mean?
I'm very curious. That was the first thing that caught my eye, and I was like, I need to know what this is. Other than that, the other thing I want to quickly comment on is how much it pains me, even though I've gone through this exact thing on my own shelf. Look how many of these boxes are like bursting at the seams and coming open here. Like I feel so bad knowing the components and the way that they're just like shoving the box apart. That happened with my Champions of Midgard with I think it actually happened with my Terraforming Mars as well. But I think this is where you have to consider some of these games, either rubber banding them, which is like I'm not a fan of that.
Wedge more games in on the shelf, right?
Yeah,
because that's what I do, and they just don't open up as much if they don't have room to.
We need to start when we review games that are like really thin boxes. Be like, we have to give extra points for the fact that it can wedge itself into certain cubicles on your Calyx shelf or whatever. And then of course the empty holes here. Is this? Do you have a certain game in mind that's going to be going into these spots? Did you just play a game that you recently removed and you hadn't put back on the shelf? Oh my god!
Wait, is that a Wingspan expansion between two Polyomino games, or is that the base game? I mean, either way, what's Wingspan doing between two Polyomino games? And then New York Zoo's over on this shelf.
I think that's the base game, but I'm not 100% sure. But yeah, I don't know whether there's certain theme prioritization or mechanic prioritization, because you also have like 3 dominions. I guess that those are deck builders next to a deck builder. That makes more sense.
Yeah, that one makes sense.
Yeah, that was, for some reason I was like, as I was saying, I'm like, wait, this makes complete sense what I'm looking at here.
And for anyone watching, obviously, like, might not be able to tell, some of these games, a decent amount of them actually, are French titles. And the one I want to point out that I just absolutely love is the Quacks of Quedlinburg.
Oh, yes.
So it's no longer in Quedlinburg, it's the Charlatan de Belcastle, it looks like. So it's now set in Belcastle instead of Quedlinburg.
Change the setting.
I don't know what the deal is there. If anyone knows, please let us know.
Plus, it's one of those games that we just call Quacks, right?
Yeah.
Like, we could play a game of Quacks or whatever. So now, how do you abbreviate it? You want to play a game of Char?
Yeah, I don't know, but even so, like, but why can't it just be Les Charlatans de Quedlinburg? Like, why does it have to be Belcastle? What's the deal there? I don't know.
I'm also just realizing the clock is actually Pokemon clock. That's kind of neat.
Oh, nice. Yeah, I didn't notice.
Where'd you get that? Is that like a local artist? Did you find that somewhere? I'm kind of curious
touch.
about that. And what is your video game collection here? I'm not gonna.
There's not time to criticize.
Sorry.
Oh, interesting. There seems to be a theme here. I mean, maybe not on law. Kind of. It's like Clue type stuff, right? There's the game Clue. Then there's Sherlock Holmes, Consulting Detective. I can't tell which one is. I think that one's Consulting Detective. I don't know which one that is, but like Unlock is like an escape room game. So there's definitely some.
There's definitely like a thematic tie between them,
but not on all the shelves.
And you know what I think is so funny?
What?
I was about to criticize that some games are horizontal, but of course one of the horizontal games is Splendor, the worst offender ever for being vertical.
The insert, so that one you support.
It's funny because this is the biggest irony of me changing my shelf. I changed my shelf to be mostly horizontal because of opening Splendor one day and being like, I can't do this anymore. Look which game is still vertical on my shelf. Splendor. I did all this work and I somehow left it vertical, and I'm like, oh my god, why did I do this? And I still don't correct it because now I think it's just hilarious irony. But kudos to you for putting Splendor the proper way on your shelf, which is horizontal.
Nice.
I feel like there's a lot of games here that have these little gaps that I think is causing the boxes to spill over. I think I think Carlo's right. You just got to find some of these even smaller games. And it might throw off the consistency a bit, but I think of the 2 lesser evils here, having these boxes nice and flush and shut properly is probably a sacrifice you're willing to make with the organization. But.
We might need to give her Kyle from Winnipeg's email, and he can give her some tips on how to just wedge all kinds of games in there and just really take advantage
Combine
of that
those
space.
2 collections. Also, this one shelf is very precarious. You have Puerto Rico looking like stick. Puerto Rico's not a long box. Like, why is it sticking out there? I'm very curious.
And what's under Role Player? What is that?
Oh yeah, does it have a name on the side? And
I feel like you're holding out on us a little bit here.
Yeah, there's some
secret
games. I don't know what that is. Also, what is Nuns on the Run?
I don't know.
It's unplayed. If that's what
from Mayfair Games though, like that's a wait. What does that say? Naughty something.
Is this going to be like something I have to?
What does that
do I have
say?
to like blur out whatever this says?
Naughty novices dodging discovery?
Is that even a sentence?
Nuns on the run. What the heck is this
very
game? We're gonna look
curious
into this
about
game
this.
as soon as we're done.
Yeah,
filming
that
this.
is a very. I've never heard of that before.
Like I think every other game here I've at least either heard of or looked familiar, or at least most of them. I don't know what this offrand. That might
Me
be
neither.
a French
And
thing.
it's on a shelf with a bunch of other games I recognize. So I'm kind of
Text
curious.
looks familiar. I can't tell what.
Oh,
game
is that?
it is, though.
That's not Hippocrates, is it? No.
Maybe.
I'm
The
trying,
font
I'm
looks
trying to think what the
familiar, but-
French version of some of these would be.
What's this
but-
game?
Hit
Hit
Z Road.
Road.
Yeah.
Whereas it's in Canada, Hit Z Road.
Hit Z Road doesn't work anymore when you do it in Canada. I will say that as much as I'm not a fan of Monopoly, I understand how it's popular from growing up. I actually own this Zelda version of Monopoly. I've left it in shrink wrap. I got it as a gift, just thinking like, oh, it's a cool collector's item to have. I'm not planning to play it anytime soon, so I just kind of keep it. But if there was one version that I say is more acceptable to have, it's the nice Zelda one because I like the little pieces that it comes with. I think like the Triforce and things like that. Right. Good version to have.
Yeah.
Yeah, lots of recognizable stuff on here. There's a couple shelves like that you can do some work on, like this one that has some precarious games. I don't even know how you'd organize a circular game. Like if there's a circular tin, like
Yeah, I don't know what
I don't
that
even
is.
know how you. It's like me trying to organize Mintworks. Like I got this little box here that like there's no way I'm gonna possibly fit this in a way that's like, ooh, he presented that very
You
well.
just stand it up on some other games.
But then if I stand up, it feels like I'm giving it so much more presentation than it serves.
I think you're just overthinking it a little bit. I have noticed, just because we tend to focus in on the Knizia and the Rosenbergs,
Yes.
there's a decent showing of Knizias. There's Lost Cities, there's El Dorado. I feel like I saw another one. I can't remember where. But yeah, maybe that is the only two.
Yep.
But as far as Rosenberg, I think it's just New York Zoo.
Oh no. Wow, you're right.
I think so.
Yeah, or
You've
even if there is
got
another one we're
some,
missing, and there's not a lot.
Got
But,
some work to do here, Emily.
Yeah.
I mean,
and you have some bigger games on here, so we know you're a fan of bigger games. I think
Yeah.
it's time for you to dive in and experience the joy of big box Uwe games. And there's no better place to start than a Feast Road. It's just
I don't even call no
the great starting spot for all Uwe fans or potential Uwe fans. Honestly, I think the biggest thing coming out of this collection is just please tell us what these tabs mean. I am so curious what the tabs mean, and if that is an organization system like for Shelf of Shame, that is next level organization, especially in that regard, because I've never thought to like mark my Shelf of Shame games, because if anything, you should have to mark them in a way that detracts from the way they present on the shelf. So if you want your shelf to look better, you got to play these games.
Exactly.
That gives you the
like
kick. Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah.
Also, I just have to point out real quick, because I think in the last time we did a video like this, we were a lot more harsh on people for not like organizing games certain ways, and we picked it apart sometimes. So I should bring attention to the fact that it looks like this is a 2-player only shelf.
Oh,
Down here.
you're right.
Because Fox in the Forest, Mr. Jack, Jaipur, Lost Cities.
Yep.
I don't know. I haven't played Kahuna or what is that, Dragonwood, so I don't know. But I'm going to go ahead and assume that those are also 2-player only.
Yep.
And I think those are the only 2-player only games I see anywhere. So
it almost
there
makes
is
up
some nice organization.
It almost
there.
makes up for the fact that Baron Park and Isle of Cats are 2 polyomino games that have wingspan in the middle, even though New York Zoo is right here and could easily join the polyomino games right there. I'm sure there's another reason, but if it was me, I would just switch wingspan and New York Zoo, make that a little bit more cohesive.
And you've got some cooperative games up here, but then Splendor is with the other cooperative. Oriflamme's also not cooperative. Okay, so
Again,
we're going down the route. Now we're getting into the criticism. Maybe we should have started with the criticism and then ended with
the only reason I'm willing to give her a pass on this is because it probably has to do with having to have Splendor horizontal, and I feel that pain, and I'm okay with it, not belonging
How
there.
do you explain Oriflamme?
Oh, I don't explain
okay.
that.
Oh, okay.
I only give her the pass on Splendor.
Okay.
That's it.
Good.
But honestly, I think it's a nice full shelf with some awesome titles. Again, we tell us about the sticky tabs, please. And also, I do like that you're able to also keep some memorabilia, or like not memorabilia, but like decoration with the clock here, and also some video games on the shelf. Although
I take back what I said before about the clock. Now that I see it's Pokemon.
Yeah. If you do need to get more room, though, you do realize eventually you're gonna have to bump the clock or bump the video games, because board game shelves, every time you get a game, it needs a full slot on the shelf. So you're definitely gonna be at the verge of running out of space. You're gonna have to make a sacrifice soon. It's just a matter of, is it going to be the clock or is it going to be video games? And there's only one way to find out. Go into our comments below and tell us, would you get rid of the clock or would you get rid of the PlayStation 4 games? You got to tell us which one you get rid of, so that Emily can check the comments and see which one she should get rid of when she has more games.
I like it.
Yeah. Thank you so much for sending the photo and
very
for supporting us on Patreon. We obviously very much appreciate it. And those are all the photos found on the collections for this video. So I think we were a little bit nicer in this video than the last one.
I think so.
I mean, we're nice.
Which is weird because a couple people called us out for, this is the most polite Canadian roast ever. And we're like, well, we don't want to like...
And it's even more polite.
Yeah, we don't want to go too intense and then people don't want to send in their collections, so...
Yeah, but we honestly appreciate the immense response we've seen with this. Again, we are going to try to get to as many of them as we can. We are going to prioritize our patron supporters when they send in their photos, but we do have a lot of non-patron supporters that we're going to get to as soon as we possibly can. And again, if we can find a way to sort of, you know, we always joke about like, we're going to keep this video to like probably 30 minutes or something. And then we look and we're like, well, we talked for an hour. You know what I mean? We tend to do that. If we can get better at, you know, keeping the time lower, maybe eventually we could do 6 in a video or something like that, get to some a little bit quicker. But otherwise, just bear with us. We do have your emails. We haven't responded to all of them, but they're in a folder. We will email you when we're going to feature it, so you can kind of prepare to see that your videos or your photo is going to be featured in one of our videos.
And because if it's been months, like if we contact you 3-4 months from now and we're going to feature your video, we'll send you an email a few days in advance to give you the opportunity to send in updated photos because we don't want people responding later being like, oh, I have another like 30 games and I got rid of a bunch since you critiqued my collection or whatever.
And if you randomly also have updated your collection and want to just send us another email saying, hey, I know you haven't featured my photo collection yet, but here's an updated collection, like that's not going to bump you down the line or anything like that. We'll just make sure we have that in the folder as well. So feel free to do that. One quick thing I want to mention, I should have done this at the start of the video, but in case you guys are hearing this, if you are a patron supporter and you're sending us a collection, if you could let us know in the email that you do support us on Patreon. We do cross-reference and do our best to check, but sometimes people have different names in their email than they do on Patreon. We don't want to miss one of yours, so if we have missed any of yours and you're a Patreon supporter, that might be why. Just let us know in an email and we'll do our best to feature it in the future. Otherwise, thank you for sending in the collections. Thanks for watching the video as always. Is there anything you want to add?
No.
Thanks for watching and we'll see you in the next one.
See ya.